All right, ladies and gentlemen, what a magical evening here in Mexico City with motorists and cyclists here in the background. And we're going to talk about magical in just a moment. But I'm going to start out this clip by being a very cynical, skeptical pessimist and saying that there is nothing as sorry or silly as a person who is trying to sound smart, but using the wrong word or using the word incorrectly and achieving the polarly opposite effect. But I could also be a very hopeful optimist and say that there's nothing as elegant or beautiful as a person using the word in its right connotation or collocation or definition. So we have these two ends of the spectrum in this cute little dichotomy. Okay, and that's what I want to talk to you about, the definitions of words, but specifically differentiating between similar words, because that's a problem that I see people use, and I've fallen into this trap, and I see authors use it, and so on. Let me give you an example which actually inspired this clip. So I was just editing a book, and the book is actually really awesome, but the book said you want to use storytelling as a technique in order to invoke emotion. What's the problem? Yeah, the clever linguist that you are, you already know what the problem is. It should be, that's right, evoke. Unless, of course, we're using emotion as a muse or a demon or a law or an article or an amendment, right? You can invoke a certain supernatural being. You can invoke a certain rule or a certain law. You can also invoke somebody's help, but you wouldn't really invoke emotions. And of course, the two words are very similar. And of course, they both come from the Latin vocare, to call. But one is e, out of, the other is in, into. And that's actually one of the remedies, is knowing the meanings of not only roots, but prefixes, suffixes. I mean, you don't want prefixes and suffixes to be offended, so know their meanings. And that very often saves you. Okay, let's look at other examples. For example, let's take amiable and amicable. What's the difference? I actually used to get confused between these two words for a long time, and I used a simple mnemonic trick to differentiate between them. Amy, as in a girl's name, is a very amiable person, meaning friendly. And amicable refers to relations, like they have an amicable relationship, while amiable refers to people. But usually, I don't use mnemonic tricks. Usually I just delve in and figure out the definition of the word and all the nuances until I see the difference, if that's what I'm trying to do, is see the difference. But sometimes if you just make it a habit to understand the meanings of words in their entirety and complexity and nuancity, which is not a word, then you will not fall into this trap. Let's take other examples. I mean, there could be many. Errant and erratic. All right, and they're obviously very different, although the root is the same. Errare, to wander. Or migrant, immigrant, and emigrant. And immigrant and emigrant, they almost are the same for all intents and purposes, except the perspective from which you look, because emigrant, for the country you leave, and immigrant is for the country you enter, while migrant could even be within the same country and is usually related to work, as far as I'm concerned. I could be wrong. I'm not infallible, maybe just indomitable. Let's see. Another example. So yeah, we started, this is not exactly the thing I'm talking about, because there is no other edge to this sword. It doesn't have a word to be confused with, but in book I saw something like sultry body, and this just rubbed me the wrong way, because sultry is usually used about actions, like a sultry look, a sultry gaze, a sultry gait. But I wouldn't say sultry body, but that's just collocation, and that's not confusing two words. But it's kind of the same, because it means that the person does not have a full handle on the word sultry. Remember, I started out with magical, so sometimes words can be identical, like analytic and analytical, or geometric and geometrical. I think for all intents and purposes, they are the same. But in this diploma I was just working on, it said analytic geometry, and I believe it's analytical geometry. So it was just a collocation, but there is really sometimes no meaning difference. So as far as the words magic and magical, they are different, but in some cases they're interchangeable. Like I said, it's a magical evening, I could also have set it to magic evening. And you can say magic powers and you can say magical powers, although usually magic is used about literally the powers and something supernatural, and magical more figurative. But often these things are interchangeable. So where am I going with this? And where I'm going is it's really important to know words so that you will not fall for the traps of something being identical when it's not, or something being different when it's not. You know, in life and in linguistics and in just about anything, it's really important to be able to know if things actually are identical or different or just similar. And it is not good to confuse things that are different and believe that they are similar, because that can lead to a lot of irrationality, right? I could get into many philosophical, political, and love and whatever tangents, but I'm not going to. But again, to honor all the great linguists of the past, Voltaire, Descartes, Pushkin, Socrates, and so on, let's really define words and know the differences. And it actually, as far as me, it gives me a lot of confidence when I know these two words are different because of this. Can you explain it to somebody else? If you can explain the difference, that's actually a very cool trick. If you can explain something to somebody, you understand it. If you say, you know, I know it, but I can't explain it, you don't know it. At least that's my maxim and my truism. If you can't explain the difference between two things, or if you just can't explain something, you don't really know it. So that's my advice and my tip and my pointer, is really differentiate between the meanings of words and things in life in general. And I believe this quote is attributed to Pushkin, but also to Descartes, that if you get people to really understand the meanings of words, you could deprive the world of half of its stupidity. So let this be our mission in life, okay? And I'll see you guys in the next clip on the channel.